Imagine discovering by accident a breakthrough so massive that it changed the world forever. Say it created life-saving medical opportunities for millions of people, but it also paved the road to incredible powers that could destroy the planet. Would you invent it? Well, that's what this legend did. I'm not a history slouch. Many of my legends I review, I have heard a little bit about at least before. This person? Never even heard the name. This will be a learning experience for all of us. So, if you are like me and you love hearing something new and saying, "Who? What did they do? How could I not have known that?" Then keep watching. You're never going to believe how this legend rocked the world with their discovery. Welcome to Legend Origins, everyone. In this episode, historian, who is generally smarter than me, and myself will delve deep into story form into the life of this incredibly impactful historical legend. Many of the legends we talk about on this channel you'll never have heard of before. I know I've never heard, not even a peep of this guy's name. I still don't know how that's possible. But comment below after watching if you knew what this legend did. I'd love to hear from you. Either way, if you did or didn't know, you'll definitely learn a few cool, fun facts about this person and the massive impact they had on your planet and scientific knowledge overall. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Discovering new technologies, exploring new philosophies, or even committing outright horrible acts that we can never forget, becoming a legend, and leaving a mark that will remain forever on our civilization, whether good or bad. Now, I'm going to introduce you to our legend of the day, but first, before I do so, if you could use that pointer finger or mouse clicker and like, subscribe, and set notifications for this video. It's free for you to do so and costs nothing, but it helps this channel get more widely spread to inform others of this really cool information I share. All right, let's look at an origin story, shall we? To get to know this legend, I'm going to take you back almost 150 years to the bustling city of Frankfurt am Main in Germany. It's spring in Frankfurt am Main in the southwestern part of Germany, not to be confused with the Frankfurt in the north, who shares the same name. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing on those gaslit streets in 1870s. Clackety horse-drawn buggies bouncing down cobbled roads, clop, clop, clop. And the air carries the faint scent of fresh bread in the industrial sector, from corner bakeries. You can hear the sharp twang of glass and metal being cut and molded in local workshops. On March 8th, in a comfortable apartment above his father's prosperous glazer's factory, a baby boy is born. Delivered by an at-home nurse, little Otto Hahn is now the youngest of 4 sons in their family. Otto's father, Heinrich, is a self-made businessman who built the family factory, Glasbau Hahn, into a respected name, crafting elegant windows, display cases, and mirrors for the city's finest homes and businesses. They even did the glazing for the world's largest self-supporting glass dome at the time. That's pretty cool. This business, over 100 years later, is still running in Germany today. Hahn's mother, Charlotte, ran the household with quiet strength. as one would need with 4 boys running around, and her husband being a very busy businessman away from the home quite often. Otto grew up as a regular kid to start, a little on the wealthier side, which helps, but pretty common for the most part. Young Otto grew up surrounded by the clink of glass and the smell of putty, as his father and brothers exposed him to the family business as soon as it was safe for his age, to get him used to everything. But it turned out his real playground and passion was his mom's laundry room, to her frustration. At just 15 years of age, while other boys chase footballs and girls, Otto is sneaking chemistry books from the local public library into his home and studying them. And he starts conducting secret experiments with whatever powders, liquids, or chemicals he can find around the house and the factory. A little known fact about Otto is his first laboratory was literally the laundry sink in the house. There, he sometimes mixes things that cause terrible smells or even small explosions, much to his parents' alarm. "Why can't you just be a normal young boy?" I'm sure they said to him often. His father had dreams of Otto becoming an architect, which would expand the family business, and it made sense. But Otto was a very stubborn child. He would say, "I want to understand how the world was made and how it functions, not how to build buildings." At 17, now pretty much an adult, Otto enrolls in Marburg University to study chemistry in Munich. He earns his doctorate there in organic chemistry at the age of 22. He wrote a thesis paper so precise, the Dean of Science said it was almost too perfect. So, the kid's got brains, that's for sure. I didn't have my doctorate when I was 22. After university, Otto serves a year of mandatory military service, which is the norm in Germany. And, as I mentioned personally, I've talked to quite a few Germans about that mandatory service thing. It actually surprised me to hear many of it say it was some of the best learning and experiences in their lives. They also credit it with helping their organization and time management skills. We don't have this in my country, but seems like a cool idea. I guess to each their own. It's an excellent opportunity for young adults, at least. Anyways, tangent complete. For Otto, after his service, he took a bold leap forward and sailed for the shores of London in 1904. He figured he could improve his English skills, and he had the opportunity to work under the renowned Sir William Ramsay at the University in London. At the university, during one of Otto's experiments purifying a crude radium sample, Otto stumbles upon a new radioactive substance that he names radiothorium. That's pretty cool to be someone that named a periodic element. Go number 90! Anyways, this discovery made like a passion in Otto for radioactivity research. A year later, going adventuring again, he crosses the Atlantic Ocean to study with Ernest Rutherford in Montreal, Canada, to further his study and his knowledge of radioactivity. In his time in Canada, he becomes a meticulous, patient leader in the field of science. And, unbeknownst to him at the time, he will become world-renowned. After his learning stint in Canada is done, he returns back to Germany in 1907. Otto joins the University of Berlin, who is supporting his research with grants now. That same year he returned to the university, he meets the brilliant young Austrian physicist Lise Meitner, who is, I would say, the Robin to his Batman. She was phenomenally smart, but being Jewish in Germany and a woman at the time, it was said she was not allowed really to work in any of the influential laboratories, so she was being held back. But to Otto, he didn't care about that. All he saw was science. Their partnership bloomed into one of the most productive and long-lasting scientific research partnerships in history, with them working together for over 30 years. After they were done working in Berlin, they later moved over together to the brand new Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Chemistry. This was located in the quiet, leafy suburbs of Dahlem, Berlin. There, Otto heads up the radiochemistry department, and Meitner works in the physics department right next door. In 1913, Otto gets married to a woman named Edith Junghans, the love of his life, and a talented art student. He actually proposed to her in a love letter he wrote after meeting her at a conference in Poland. Romance was so sweet back in those days. Anyways, they then had their own son, Hanno, who was born in 1922. Everything seemed nice, perfect, right. Now, enter World War I. This destroys the harmony Otto had built in his research. Everything Otto was working on in Berlin, Germany, halted. Otto got drafted for the war, and he becomes a chemical weapons specialist, testing and deploying poisonous gases on both the eastern and western fronts of the war. He hates it. He hates violence. All he wanted to do was learn and experiment. During the war, he earned the German Iron Cross, but the award haunted him emotionally and mentally. After the war, he returns to Berlin, determined to focus on his research and pure science. In the 1920s and 30s, these turn out to be his golden middle-age years. He spends a good amount of time lecturing across Europe, ski holidays in the Alps, and makes a steady progress identifying new radioactive isotopes. Fun fact, Otto was an avid and enthusiastic mountaineer. During his time lecturing, his scientific research partner Meitner is assisting in the discoveries as well. They share everything. Life is good, stable, happy again. Then, the rise of the Nazis start. When Hitler seizes power in 1933, Otto watches in horror as all his Jewish science colleagues are driven out of Germany, or worse. Otto, being the kind soul that he is, quietly helps several scientists escape. He does his best, including protecting his lifelong partner Meitner as long as he can. In 1938, after the Anschluss, Meitner flees to Sweden with almost nothing but 10 marks and her mother's wedding ring sewn into the inside of her jacket. Otto is crushed, but knew it had to happen. She had to flee Germany. Otto stayed behind in Germany, and now he was the new director of the institute that they worked at. One day in his laboratory, on a cold December night in 1938, working with his young new assistant, Fritz Strassmann, Otto bombards a small amount of uranium with neutrons doing some scientific tests. The result is baffling. Instead of a heavier element being left behind due to the combination, they find something lighter is left: barium. Hahn writes to Meitner in intellectual despair, as he isn't sure what happened. He doesn't get it. That's not normal. He says to her, "Perhaps you can suggest some fantastic explanation for what's happened. It just doesn't make sense." After thinking it over, Meitner and her nephew, Otto Fritsch, finally realize what has happened. The uranium nucleus must have split in two, Otto. You split the nucleus in two. This is the birth of nuclear fission. Being an overexcited and little braggadocious scientist, his discovery is announced the world. However, within months of that announcement, Otto realizes, and also the rest of the scientific community, this discovery can be done in a chain reaction, which, if done, would release unimaginable power. Otto himself is stunned. The genie bottle has been opened. He never wanted to discover a weapon, but he now realized he did. And so did everyone else. When the war broke out again, he refused every invitation to work on the Germans' atomic program. A lesser-known fact about Otto was when his American and British scientific counterparts were racing to build the first atomic bomb, Otto was secretly helping Jewish friends hide and was smuggling food to them in Berlin. Maybe trying to repair some karma for himself, would be my guess. By 1944, the Allies in the war capture Otto, and he's taken to a secret country house in England called Farm Hall, along with 9 other German scientists. There, on November 16th, the radio announces that Otto Hahn has won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the discovery of fission. Otto actually learns of it while held captive at the country house, pacing around in the gardens contemplating life. Otto was finally released by the British in 1946, and he returned to a shattered Germany. The motherland was just wrecked after the war. The Kaiser Wilhelm Institute is now renamed to the Max Planck Institute, and Otto becomes its president. He then throws himself into rebuilding German science, now strongly around ethical foundations. In 1955, Otto co-signs the Göttingen Manifesto, warning the world against nuclear weapons, saying, "We the people cannot remain silent on this discovery." For all the good that did, it seems he may have been brilliant, but he didn't really have any power of any significance. Otto's later years are much quieter, but no less remarkable. He travels, lectures, and plays his beloved flute to small groups. Oh, I didn't mention that? Yeah, he was a flautist, and a pretty decent one from what I heard. His wife, Edith, stood by his side and was his rock until her death. Then, unfortunately, tragedy struck, and Otto's son died in a car accident in 1960. Otto was all alone again, and went into a deep depression on July 28, 1968. At the age of 89, Otto actually slipped on a rug in his Berlin apartment and died from the fall. Some would say after all the crazy things Otto went through it with the wars and radiation and all that research, that death by rug is a little anticlimactic. But come on guys, he was 89. We can throw stones if we even make it to that age. The world mourns the passing of the man who split the atom, simultaneously mourning the man who begged humanity not to use it for destructive means. Now, let's pause for a moment and look around the world here in 2026. Almost everything nuclear in our lives traces back to that December night in Berlin, his experiments. Are you asking yourself, is nuclear discovery really much a part of my life? Well, without Otto's accidental breakthrough, there would be no nuclear power plants, which is roughly 20% of the Earth's electricity. And it's a darn sight cleaner and more reliable than other options. Without that discovery, we'd be struggling to keep the lights on or charge our iPhones and power hospitals. France currently gets 70% of their power from nuclear power plants. The USA is about 20%. All thanks to Otto. Nuclear medicine would vanish. What's that, you say? Every day, millions of patients worldwide receive Tech 99mm scans. These tracers were born from fission products to diagnose heart disease, cancer, and bone problems, radiation therapy that shrinks tumors, radioscopes that treat thyroid cancer, PET scans that detect Alzheimer's early. All of these depend on the fission process Otto unlocked for us. Without it, modern oncology would be decades behind where we are now. How about nuclear submarines and nuclear icebreakers that quietly patrol the Arctic routes and explore our oceans? Gone. What about the research reactors that produce medical isotopes and train scientists? Gone. Even the deeper understanding of the stars in the galaxy would have been much slower coming to us without his revolution. Shout out to Meitner and her nephew also. Otto Hahn gave the world a double-edged sword. He unlocked the power of the atom, then spent the rest of his life trying to ensure we used it for healing rather than destruction. Otto once wrote, "The scientist must be held responsible for the consequences of his discoveries." Well, that quiet, flute-playing chemist from Frankfurt changed the world as we know it. Probably more profoundly than almost anyone in history, I'd say. So, the next time you flip on a light, receive a medical scan, or simply marvel at the energy that powers our age, remember that little boy that was experimenting in his mother's laundry sink, and how he grew up into the man that split the atom. Otto Hahn's life story wasn't only about his amazing discovery of nuclear fission, but also a lesson to us all that sometimes great discoveries can be a great burden on one's conscience. I almost said with great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben from Spider-Man made that one popular. But if you think about it, information is for everyone. And they'll use it in many ways, as many as there are different people. That can be guaranteed. So tell me in the comments, had you heard of Otto Hahn, the man that split the atom? Or did you say to yourself, hey, I thought Oppenheimer was the one that did that? Well, Oppenheimer joined the American Manhattan Project in 1942 to build an atomic bomb. This was right after Albert Einstein's famous letter to President Roosevelt saying, "Beware of a possible German atomic bomb." But this all happened shortly after Otto's discovery in 1939. They couldn't have done it without him. Another question I had was, why didn't Otto get hurt when splitting the atom the first time? He did it by accident. The reason was, it wasn't done as a chain reaction, which you need for a bomb. It was just a very small test batch of atoms that split. They did release energy, but not enough to cause any harm. If you have more questions, though, comment below. I'm not an expert, but I'll read them all. And I have done some research, so I'll see what I can say. You see, you never know where the next great idea will come from. Maybe it'll be you, the listener, inspired by Otto's accidental test result that changed our world forever. Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate your time, and I hope you've learned something new about one of the legends that changed our world. If you did enjoy this, please like and subscribe, and I'll be releasing more legends in the future to come. I'd also like to hear any suggestions you might have of legends for me to do in future videos. Someone who did extraordinary things but sits in relative obscurity for the most part. Those are the best ones. Remember, out there somewhere, hidden in forgotten textbooks or manuscripts, unwatched movie clips, or even in the memories of our seniors, are legends. And they changed your life forever, whether you knew it or not.